Hey guys, how's it going? It's your buddy Jake Dominguez back with another movie review. So, before I begin this review, let me tell you a funny story. So, this was supposed to be a review for Cars 3, the brand new Disney Pixar film. Yesterday, early in the morning, I went to go see the movie, and, well, they were having problems at the movie theater. And I had to wait 30 minutes before the movie could start. And by that point, it still hasn't started. They were having problems. The projector was going crazy. So, yeah. There was me with a bunch of other angry people, which was a little awkward, as you can imagine. And after a while, I was just like, I'm just impatient. I'm just going to go see something else. And so, the movie that was just playing, that I was able to exchange my ticket for, is this film. Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. That is the title of this film. Not the... I'm rarely embarrassed to admit that I've seen a movie, but this was the film I chose to see. This was the only one available, so yeah, here's my review of this. So, Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, is based on the original children's chapter books written by Dav Pilkey. And it tells the story of these two boys named George and Harold. Is that their names? I'm already blanking on their names. I'm pretty sure it's George and Harold. I'm so prepared for this review, you guys. Yeah, it is them, of course. What am I thinking? And they are both super creative, and they make their own comic books, especially of their favorite hero, Captain Underpants. And they are the biggest pranksters in the world. They play all these pranks in their school, much to the annoyance of their mean old principal, Mr. Crump. Mr. Crump eventually comes up with a plan to break these two apart by putting them both in different classes. George and Harold don't want that, so the big adventures ensue that basically leads to them hypnotizing him with a hypno ring. Yes, a hypno ring. To turn them into their favorite hero, Captain Underpants. And he goes crazy, he believes he's this superhero, and hilarious hijinks ensue. So that's the plot of this movie, and I actually read these books back when I was a little kid. In fact, I probably still have them somewhere, and I actually really enjoyed them. Dav Pilkey was a really great children's writer, and I really didn't know what to expect with this one. I saw the trailers, and I'd be lying if I said I was really impressed by them. It's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, why didn't this happen like 15 years ago? I'm not sure if they're still making Captain Underpants books or not. I honestly have no idea. Maybe I probably should have looked it up, but I mean, it seems like, I don't know if it's just a nostalgia thing, like they think people who read these books forever ago, like me, will go see it, and I'm not sure. But it seems odd that after all these years, they're finally making a movie out of it. So I kind of question that, but what do I know? So I really didn't know what to expect. So I sat down, I watched the movie, and, well, to be honest, this movie isn't that bad. Surprisingly enough, it is actually a perfectly decent movie. I'm not a big fan of a lot of DreamWorks Animations films. They are the ones who made this movie, and I'm usually pretty underwhelmed by them. But this one is actually pretty decent. This is a perfectly enjoyable, entertaining movie. It's only about 80, 90 minutes long, and it's pretty harmless. That's probably the word I use. It's a perfectly harmless movie. A grown adult can sit down and watch this film and probably be perfectly fine with it. There's nothing really insulting or annoying about it. It's actually kind of funny. That's my favorite thing about this movie, and the thing that surprised me the most is that it actually has some good jokes in it. There actually is some good humor in this movie. I was afraid it would just be a bunch of toilet humor and stuff, because Captain Underpants. Yeah, And it's actually a very small part of it. There actually are some good gags in this film that actually did make me laugh, which was pretty awesome. I'm a hard laugh in general, so when you can make me laugh, that's pretty awesome. So that was a lot of fun to see. And that surprised me. It's like, oh my goodness, they're putting effort into this. Sorry, not to diss them or anything, but what do you expect going in to see a movie like this? I didn't have high expectations, so to see that it made me laugh was pretty awesome. I also really like the animation in this movie. Now, it's computer animated animation, and it's not like it's the most beautiful, realistic, pretty animation at all, but it's very cartoony. The animation in this movie is very much close to the illustrations in the original books. Like, it pretty much is just them, only it's animated with computer animation. It kind of reminded me of the Peanuts movie. Remember that? It came out in November of 2015. And what they did with that movie was that they kind of did the animation so it looked kind of like the original Peanuts TV specials that premiered with, did have the best animation and stuff like that. And it kind of reminded me of that. Like, it was very cartoony. Like, you know, whenever somebody cried, it would have little drawn teardrops and stuff like that, if that makes sense. And that was kind of cool. I thought, like, oh, that's kind of fun. And again, it was just like the original books, which was cool. I would say that this movie also has the spirit of the original books. It's pretty much an adaptation of the first 4 books of the Captain Underpants thing site. If I'm correct, I barely remember them, but it pretty much has the first plot of those 4 books. It combines them into one movie. And it's a pretty good adaptation of the books in terms of the humor and the spirit of them. So this is a pretty darn good adaptation if you want to look at it from that perspective. And overall, this movie was just fine. It was perfectly entertaining, and I was surprised, like, oh, well, this is fine. This is awesome. Great. Now, having said that, this is definitely not a great movie at all. And to be honest, I saw this yesterday morning, and by the end of the day, I kind of had already forgotten it, to be honest. I hate to say that, I don't mean to criticize the movie too much, but it was kind of just forgettable fluff. You know, when you say something is not very good, let me rephrase that, blah, blah. When you say something, it's not, it's not bad. It also can be kind of a roundabout way of saying it's not very good either. And as much as I enjoyed this movie, do I want to say this? Do I want to say this? Maybe I don't know. I don't mean this, maybe I shouldn't say this because it's going to sound mean. But to be honest, I hesitate to call Captain Underpants a good movie. I don't mean to sound condescending, but the reason I say that is because there's too many things wrong with it, and it's kind of just okay, it's just too okay and not great, not good enough to be classified as a good, really good movie. It's just kind of a fine movie. It's a harmless film. Again, I'm sorry, that's kind of a condescending thing to say, but that's kind of how I feel about it. This movie is perfectly fine, but it is very slight. There isn't much to it. There really is no emotional pull or anything. It's just a bunch of mindless fun and entertainment. And to be honest, I would say the last 20 minutes or so was, I kind of had my fill, you know what I mean? I was kind of I feel like I was kind of done, and I was kind of like, okay, well, how much longer does this have? Oh, it has an hour left, One thing I should mention is that I was the only person in this theater. That never happens. I was the only person in the movie theater, which that alone makes me feel bad for these filmmakers. Apparently they're making money from it, but it was like, oh wow. So I was all by myself. I was stretched out. I would never pull out my phone in the movie theater, but I was able to pull it out because I was the only person there. So that was kind of cool. And I was kind of done. I was getting a little restless. I'm like, okay, how much longer are you going to go with this? Not to spoil anything, but the third act of general was just so much stuff happening and that sort of thing. And I was starting to get a little restless. And that was only an hour into an 80-minute movie. And that's not good. If the last 20 minutes of the movie in an 80-minute movie, I'm starting to feel restless in such a short film, that's not so good. Another issue I had with the movie is some of the casting choices of George and Harold. Now, they are voiced by Kevin Hart and, let me check his name. I'm actually blanking on it right now. Sorry, guys. Thomas Middleditch. They both do a really good job as George and Harold. They do a really good job. They're both really funny. But if I have a really nitpicky thing to say is that when I first started watching the movie, it honestly kind of distracted me. George and Harold are supposed to be first graders, I think, third graders, second, somewhere around there, I think. And Kevin Hart and Thomas Middleditch, or whatever his name is, are obviously not kids. and I've seen them in other movies, especially Kevin Hart. Like, they're obviously adults. So you're watching a movie where, like, two adults are voicing children and they have adult voices. It kind of distracted me at first, especially since I knew who they were. Like, I kept on just imagining them in a recording booth, basically. Like, why couldn't they just hire children or someone who can do children's voices? Now, that's a very nitpicky thing to say, and after a while, I didn't even think about it. And again, they do a really good job in the movie, and that's all that matters. But at first, it did kind of distract me, and that's pretty normal for animation films and animation shows, is to get adults to voice children. But this case, he just talks like Kevin Hart, and so does the other actor, and so kind of distracted me at first, but again, they do a good job, and that's all that matters. Having said all of that, all those criticisms that I just mentioned, they're all pretty nitpicky. You have the flip side of all of that. Are kids going to care about anything that I just mentioned? The acting, the third act, how it's kind of slight and doesn't have any meaning. Are kids going to care? No. And should they care about any of these nitpicky things? No, they shouldn't. It's a Captain Underpants movie, for goodness sakes. I mean, what do you really expect? And for what it is, it's perfectly fine. There are some little good themes in there about importance of imagination and friendship and that sort of thing. But overall, it's just sort of mindless fun and entertainment. But that's okay. It does it well enough. And overall, I enjoyed the movie just fine. I'm going to give Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, a B-. Perfectly fine entertainment that kids will enjoy and adults can watch without wanting their brains to melt. You know? And yeah, interestingly enough, the title of this movie is the first epic movie. Don't you love it? Like, they're so confident this will get a sequel. It's the first epic movie. I was the only person in the theater, which is like, oh my goodness, like this movie probably isn't making a ton of money. I went online and checked, and sure enough, they are making money. It looks like they're made like half their budget back, but I don't know. Now that Cars 3 is in theaters and Transformers is about to come out, I'm not sure how much longer this movie will stay in theaters, which is kind of a shame. That's too bad for them. But I mean, again, they're making money, and that's all that counts. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it's actually a pretty decent movie, so it's like, you hope that some people would see it, but oh well. Well, guys, that is my review of this movie that I wasn't planning to review. What did you guys think of this movie if you've seen it? Let me know down in the comments section below. And what books did you like as a kid that you would love to see adopted as a movie, animated or not? Again, love these books when I was a kid, and it's kind of cool to see it in a movie, so there's that. You guys are the greatest. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like this video and to subscribe, and never forget, most importantly of all, I am your friend. I am always going to be there for you. Thank you guys so much for being my friends. You guys are the greatest, and I will see you next time.